We talking about sports, get ball.
What it do, baby? Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. And you number one podcast listeners, we have a special episode for you right here. I'm joined by one of my oldest friends, friend of 20 years, Andy Shoemaker, or Shoe as we affectionately call him. Welcome, Shoe.
Hey, Premal. Happy to be on here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to have you on here. So, we've been wanting to do this for a while, but Shoe is as big of a Cincinnati Bearcats fan as there is, and he wanted to serve as kind of a group of five representative. I know it's post-college football season, but we figured this is a perfect time to kind of get you, fill the gap in between now. Spring practice has just started, so he wanted to serve as a representative as we talk college football playoff, and he representing Cincinnati and other group of five teams. Now, this episode is just going to be a little bit of sports because we have a very important topic to discuss, and that's mental health. So you may be asking yourself, why have them on one episode? Why not do two separate editions? Well, stay tuned alert. I promise to get to that explanation, explain more behind why we're including both in one episode. So without further ado, I wanted to start us off with yeah, fam or not, and we're going to focus this in on what I just talked about, the college football playoffs, and specifically the group of five chances of ever making it. Shoe, obviously you already know this, but just a little background for those a little rusty from this past college football season since it's been a couple months. So Cincinnati this past year had the highest ever college football playoff ranking for a group of five, a non-Power 5 school team. They were ranked number 7 at one point. The Bearcats did not lose all year, but yet they dropped in rankings. Before their New Year's 6 Peach Bowl, they finished at a ranking of number 8 at 9-0 behind 3-loss Florida Gators team and a 2-loss Oklahoma Sooners team. Worth noting, as far as other group of five teams, Coastal Carolina finished their season 11-0, and they were ranked number 12 heading into bowl season. So, with all that background, obviously Cincinnati played in that Peach Bowl, a game they probably should have won. We all know that. Shoe, I won't hash on that. But, yeah, fam or not, will a group of five team ever get in? And if not, what's your solution to this? And in your answer, are you for a non-Power 5 playoff at this point? Because it seems, well, they clearly haven't put any of the group of five in the playoff yet. So if your answer is no, would you be in favor of a non-Power 5 playoff of their own? All right. Shoe, have at it, buddy.
Yeah, so this was a tough year to see only winning games drop you at times, especially near the playoff selection. I think as it stands with 4 teams making the playoff, there will not be a non-Power 5 team make it. I think we want that transparency, though, as, non-Power 5 teams to say, hey, if we aren't going to have the ability to make the college playoff, then, yeah, can we go ahead and do something on the side that is, these set of teams or this set group can still strive to be in the postseason more than just one bowl game, like a GoDaddy.com or whatever that may be this year. So I think
the Mayo Bowl.
Yeah. So for me, it's more about committee. Let's have some transparency. Is it possible? Is there any situation you see? And if not, okay, but let these teams know that going into it. And for me, I think the solution for me is an 8-team playoff. I like.
Definitely.
I think the
Yes,
Power 5 champion of the Power 5 get 5 spots, and then we look at the rest of the field. Now, I'm not saying that the other 3 have to go to the non-Power 5, but let's look at the criteria for those and what we think truly a playoff team looks like.
Yeah, so I've said this before on this very podcast. My theory is you put just like you said, the Power 5 conference champions as automatic bids, so to speak, out of the 8 playoff teams. And then you have 3 at-large teams. And my theory is if you feel that one of the non-Power 5 teams is worthy of, like, let's say your top 10 or 12, then they get an automatic bid. So it's not locking you into a group of 5 team, but if they were good enough to crack your rankings in a, so to speak, like a top 12 manner. I think that's like kind of how it used to be. I think right now you have to be in the top 14 to be considered for a New Year's Six. So like you keep that kind of same logic for this 8-team playoff, and you give them an automatic spot, and then you do 2 at large from there in any conference. And then if there isn't a group of 5 team that's worthy, and you're not limited to one either, but if there isn't one that's worthy that year, then you're not locked into it. But I think that's the only way to give them a shot at this. And then you re-rank those 8 teams you pick. So it's not that automatically those Power 5 conference winners get a home playoff game. Well, obviously not all of them can, but it's not like they all get the top 5 seeds. Like, for example, Oregon won the Pac-12 championship this year. They wouldn't get a home game all of a sudden just because they won one of the Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my I know it's not a unique theory. A lot of people have that. But I agree with you. Like, if there was a year that someone could have thrown in the group of 5, this was the year. So if it wasn't going to happen this year, a year, impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, you had some teams playing as low as 6 games, other teams playing like 11 games like Coastal Carolina, and you had a very worthy Cincinnati Bearcats team that was very impressive by all standards. And if you didn't put them in this year, it's just not going to happen. So I mean, this is me from the outside looking in. Like, you are more invested in it. I can imagine how frustrating it is to hear those committee members try to make it seem like these non-Power 5s have a chance only for them to keep dropping them for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'm level-headed all the time, but when I think about Cincinnati, I don't think they could have beaten Ohio State or Alabama, or Clemson. But I do think they could play against Notre Dame. And I think what we found this season is what we see with these conferences is you are just as good as who you're playing. So if you're undefeated going into your conference championship and the other team has 1 loss and it's only to you, how good is the rest of that conference? Can we look at that and not just look at reputation, not just look at, historically they're good.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Those things.
And Notre Dame's loss was to Clemson without Trevor Lawrence. So you're saying like, oh, these teams were equal. They beat each other once. It's like, well, when Clemson was at full strength, they whooped Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That ACC championship was a throttling. Like, there's no way you could look at that and they're like, oh, no, they still put them at the 4 seed. That's when you say, okay, let's just, to hell with it. Let's run with this. Let's give a non-Power 5 team that's been impressive like Cincinnati a chance. Clemson avenged their only loss, and it was without their quarterback. And then Notre Dame, it took them overtime to beat Clemson without who's going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that's as much of an indictment as you need.
Yeah, I think when you look at Cincinnati, and I like that you brought up Coastal Carolina because they did everything they could to make sure they played enough games, won them decisively. Yeah. They even scheduled again when other teams had
against BYU, wasn't it?
So, I mean, what more?
Yeah, like last minute.
I mean, I think if you look at what we were saying, 8-team, or even if you look at a non-Power 5 playoff with 4 teams, I think that's fun this season too. Because you look at Coastal Carolina, Cincinnati.
Probably put BYU in there.
BYU. Those teams, when you think about it, those are exciting games too. So no matter what it is, I think transparency is the biggest thing. Tell the committee, hey, if we're not going to get a non-Power 5 team in, then we just need to know that, and we need to figure something else out. If you want to go to 8 teams, I think you put forth a good plan for that. I really, at this point, I don't see it happening if it didn't happen this year, as you said.
Definitely. Very insulting that a very impressive Cincinnati team was ranked behind a 3-loss Florida team. I thought I'm not even a Cincinnati fan. It's just like you couldn't even hide the Power 5 bias there. It's
okay. I mean, Florida owns us. So ever since the Peach Bowl. So I can't. The infamous Peach Bowl.
Yeah, it is. All this is like, be careful what you wish for, but I just feel like, it's got to be frustrating to make them, gas up non-Power 5 teams only for them to drop you in rankings for no reason.
Yeah, and I understand, like, people will be saying, well, strength of schedule, where do you fall? And I understand that, but in a year like this,
I mean, give me a break with that. The SEC schedules high school JV teams as they're at a conference games a lot of times. Like,
yeah. So,
like, let's be real. They're good athletes everywhere. You see Cincinnati, who they play, Tulsa. That Zaven Collins is going to be a first-round pick. You have Zach Wilson from BYU. There are players all over the place. You have Trey Lance from North Dakota State being an NFL prospect. Like, there are good players everywhere. So it needs to go to an 8-team playoff. And if you're not going to put them in 4, I'm with you as a fan. Obviously, we all know I'm a fan of a Power 5 powerhouse, but I feel for other people who are, Cincinnati fans. We have a lot of MAC fans in Ohio as well. Not that they've been in contention lately, but let's just have something else for them if you're never going to put them in.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe then, I don't know if this would worry the Power 5 at all, but maybe you have the winners play.
Yeah, that would be sweet.
It would be, but, then, once again, careful what you wish for, because if Cincinnati would have gone out there and tried to beat up Alabama, I think we'd, yeah.
I mean, Alabama wasn't losing to anyone. Clearly, they dominated everyone they played, but maybe another year a number 1 would be actually on any given Saturday, so to speak. You could play your best game and catch a team on an off night, so
that's true.
Not this year. That Alabama team wasn't losing to anyone, but I guess we'll see what happens with that. I think most people are in favor of a 8-team playoff and however that looks like, so hopefully that's in the future and they can work that out down the line. Or I mean, maybe it's as simple as these other conferences starting a playoff like that and getting those non-Power 5s to come to some sort of agreement. So who knows?
Yeah.
All right, you number 1 podcast listeners, before we move on to the mental health subject that we spoke about in the intro to this episode, we wanted to get to a couple quick you played yourselves. So let's drop that intro, baby.
I'm petty as hell.
And
I'm super petty.
here we
Petty LePew.
go.
Okay, I'm going to go first, Shu, and I'm going to give you the floor because you want to get some microphone therapy out of the way for your basketball program. But first, my favorite basketball program found a way for me to be disappointed very early in the NCAA tournament. So I'm going to hit a you played yourself to the Ohio State Buckeyes basketball team, the men's basketball team, and a you played yourself to me for wasting so many fucking hours of my winter watching this team.
Petty alert.
So,
Petty alert.
obviously, everybody knows from the red marks on all their brackets, Ohio State lost their opening round game to 15 seed Oral Roberts to open the NCAA tournament. And I consider it an absolute failure of a season. I wasted a lot of my time watching a team that earned a 2 seed and played very well all season long, but then totally shit the bed in the month of March. They lost 4 in a row to finish the Big Ten regular season. They made a run in the Big Ten tournament. They fell just short in overtime in the Big Ten final to Illinois, who ended up as a 1 seed, as we all know. So, things were looking up for the Ohio State Buckeyes and their fans. And then what happens? They go ice cold shooting and lose to a 15 seed, and they lose in the exact manner every scouting report said. Oral Roberts had the leading scorer in the nation, and they have one other primary scorer. Together, they average 42 points a game. Ohio State knew that. Everybody knew that. And what did they do? Those two players finished with a combined 59 of their team's 75 points. Ohio State lost in overtime. And yes, they shot poorly. Yes, they shot free throws poorly, which they haven't done all year. Save it with that. Just fucking save it. Good teams find a way, and what we found out is this wasn't a good team. And what we found out is we wasted so much of our winter. Yes, you may say that's a little harsh. I'm not one of those crazy people trying to talk to players and tell them they let me down. It's none of that. This is purely fanhood, purely talking into the abyss. So let's get that out of the way first, because you had someone send vile messages to EJ Liddell. We don't condone that sort of psycho behavior at all here. So before we get going with that, this has nothing to do with the players, blaming the players. Don't tweet at players. That shit is lame. Don't ever do that. These are collegiate athletes. These are, never mind that they're even college students. Don't tweet at players. Like, you're sitting on a couch watching a basketball game. It's basketball. Let's understand that, first of all. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. Ohio State totally underperformed. Yes, they shot poorly. They did nothing to get out of their own way. They made no adjustments in halftime. They made no adjustments down the stretch. You saw this team miss free throws in the last 2 minutes, commit multiple turnovers, and yet they still had a chance, tie game, end of regulation, to shoot a game winner. And what did they do? They drew up not a single fucking play. They let Dwayne Washington Jr. settle for a step-back fadeaway three-pointer. It was a tie game to win it. They ran no action, no pick, nothing. At the end of the game, every defense is switching on every screen. Ohio State's offense did not run. They literally stood still while Dwayne Washington ran an ISO after he's been shooting cold all game. No action towards the hoop, no creating mismatches, no plan whatsoever. So you played yourself goes to Ohio State in the absolute poop bow to end this season, end this March for this team. So up and down, but to me, an utter failure. When you lose, when a 2 loses to a 15, it is an absolute failure. I don't care what you tell me about making shots, missing free throws. The better team with better athletes should win a game like that. If you want to talk to me about getting upset in later rounds, fine. A 2 should not lose to a 15. Not a team that's done it all year. So you played yourself goes to the Ohio State Buckeyes men's basketball team and that utterly embarrassing opening round loss to Oral Roberts. All right. That being said, I know we're sticking in college basketball, so Shu, have the floor with your Bearcats. Go.
So really quickly, just want to reiterate what you said. The final possession, that can't happen.
Of regulation, because the game went to overtime, right? Yeah, it can't happen.
It can't.
Right, you and I were talking about it before. They're switching every screen. Just even set a lazy screen to get Dwayne Washington on a bigger guy, and either the big guy sags off on defense because he's scared Dwayne Washington's going to drive right by him, so Dwayne can shoot a better look at a jump shot, or even better, you get a bigger guy on you who's slower, you can blow right by him and go towards the hoop, force the refs to call foul, or the guy who set the screen, I would think it would be EJ Liddell, who finished first team Big Ten, you could maybe kick it out to him if he does a pick and pop. He's got a nice jump shot over a shorter guy then, or he could roll while the shorter guy's trying to guard him, and he could maybe get fouled or make a shorter shot that's higher percentage. So I just think there's no excuse for you to clear out as if this is the NBA and you have Damian Lillard on your team. It doesn't fucking work that way.
Yeah, and I would say, Prem, like when we're talking about, these, I would say ignorance for individuals tweeting at Liddell or tweeting at any collegiate athlete.
Yeah.
The man got you here. I'm not saying it was just him, but I'm saying if you give any college athlete the line that he had in that game, you're picking him for your team. Like, hey, here are the lines, and you can pick this guy or you can't, and you're taking him. He's a good athlete. He's a great basketball player. It's a shame that, it's not noticed by individuals who are in the moment, upset, probably on a bar stool somewhere, and just frustrated.
Yeah. Just not the way to show frustration. Yell. You can angry tweet like I do. Just, you don't tweet at players. Like, it's not that deep. We're all upset, but it's not life and death. It is basketball. And you are I won't even say fan, because you give fans a bad name when you do stuff like that. I think it's like, and I like that these players are acknowledging, like, hey, I know a majority of people aren't this crazy. Yes, I understand we let you down. You have a right to be upset, but you let us down it's sports. I'm well aware of that. Like, I yell into this microphone episode in and episode out, but I'm not naive to think it's impacting my life overall. It is sports.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing is, like, even, I follow you on Twitter and everything, even when you're at your angriest, it's just questioning what was going through that person's mind at the time. It's
purely
not,
on the court. On the court.
It's not, I don't think of you the same as a human because you missed that shot, or because you did that.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, something that's really missed in today's society is he is out there on the court, and it's for your entertainment, ultimately.
Yes.
And your fanhood, and, it shows pride, and he's representing. So let's build these young men up. Let's build them up.
Yep.
I mean, I would have loved to see something where people had reached out and said to him, it wasn't the day for you. But you know what? You helped us through the season. You got us here. You put in, countless hours. Countless hours.
And EJ Liddell especially, like in this particular example, he got totally better. He barely played last year, and he just improved night and day. I mean, I said he's all Big Ten first team. And listen, if you're upset about a game, just don't say anything.
Yeah.
Like, if you're ever in doubt whether I should tweet at an athlete, the answer is no.
Yeah.
It's always no.
These are just ridiculous and disgusting. I mean, the things that have been said to him, and the things that he's had to go through after already a devastating loss for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, like, you don't think he's upset? He's more upset than we are.
Yeah, so
he's the one that put in the time.
Yeah, he put in hours to get better, to work hard, to bring his team here.
I put in hours on my couch. He put hours in the gym.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't think I've probably put in the same amount of time that he's put in working out and getting better at his game and his craft. I don't think I've put that into anything. I mean, it's tough to say as a proud male, but when I think about it, I mean, the effort that it takes to be a collegiate athlete, an athlete at the next level, all of that, you have to continually be getting better. you can't be complacent. One thing that's important to realize is if my team wins a ton of games because I am playing really well, that means they're probably bringing in better athletes to replace me as well. So I need to stay hungry. I need to stay on that grind, and that is something that is a bit more seen in athletics than I would say the corporate world or, your day-to-day. I haven't seen people out scouting for people to come in take my job, but I mean, maybe they're out there, but those things are like, you have to be selfless, you have to work hard, you have to do the right thing in every situation, and you're expected to do that at 19, 20, 21. It's just the things that were said were despicable, and I just wanted to make sure that we knew that you, being a passionate fan, are a good type of fan. Passion isn't what that was.
Right. Exactly. That was way past it, and we don't consider people like that fans. People who do that stuff to directly try to threaten and talk negatively to an athlete, and especially a student athlete.
Yeah.
All right, your floor, Cincinnati. Let's get it.
I'm going to get into my Bearcats. As I begin, I would like to apologize to Barb Shoemaker if you're listening, because Premal did use 5 F words and 2 S words. But,
Mrs. Shoemaker, I'm so sorry.
That apology, Premal.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
Yes, she does. Mrs. Shoemaker, I apologize. I'll try to keep those at a minimum. I just learned that you listen to the show, and I'm very embarrassed at my explicit language. Please remember me as I was, not as I am recording. Sincerely, Mrs. Shoemaker.
No, Premal, she loves the show, and she loves supporting. So
you and I were FaceTiming, and I think that would have been a hilarious picture when my face when I found out that she listens to the show, and me realizing how much I curse on here.
You are completely fine. I just thought it was something funny.
Sorry to
bring
Mrs.
up.
Shoemaker and all the parents out there that find it vulgar. I would say I promise to not do it again, but that would be lying to you. So I can promise I'll try not to for this episode. Speaking of cursing, I know you won't be, Shu, but have at those Bearcats. I know you'll be firing them off hypothetically censored in your head, though.
Yeah, so, UC basketball has had its trials, tribulations the past couple years. We always look strong on paper and on defense, is what I'll say. But there have been times where we hit a lull, and really I just want to talk about the current state of Cincinnati. We have new coaching, we have new recruits, we have a new system that's coming in, and this season and last season as well, we have seen rifts between players and coaches, or players and the system that's running. We had Jared Cumberland, and he, I don't think, was utilized to his potential in his last year at Cincinnati. I think that's why we saw the exit in the tournament. We didn't have a go-to guy who could just get out there and take care of business, because he was having to play in a system that wasn't built for him. This season, I think more of the same. We have athletes. We have guys who are making plays, and it seems that sometimes the system is more important than the scoreboard with the current coaching. I will never say anything bad about a college basketball coach, because I will never understand that stress, especially replacing Mick Cronin, who just did a wonderful job, but was able to recruit well enough to get his guys in there to run his style. Now, with that being said, there is a huge issue right now in Cincinnati basketball. Since our loss to Houston in the conference championship, 6 players of significant playing time, abilities, have entered the transfer portal.
Wow.
We are looking at a team of 3 core players and going from there. And there's talks of how...
So they got to build a brand new team.
Yeah. And how do you do that with a head coach who the 6 players have said, I don't want to play for you? So how do you go out and recruit and say, hey, I'm the best guy to coach you, when there's 6 guys of significance who can say, I've had the experience, and that's not the truth. Now, luckily, there are 3 individuals who are supporting the coach, and maybe they have the right idea. Maybe they do. But 6 players leaving in a week and a half, that's a red flag, I would say.
Not a good look.
Not a great one. And it just, for me, Cincinnati basketball is a 5 athletic player team. And I think what the current coach is trying to do is get someone involved that hasn't worked at Cincinnati. And I would say that big man. It never worked at Cincinnati. I mean, when you think about the greats, Kenyon Martin, Eric Hicks, Jason Maxiell, they were all undersized. Right. But the reason they were effective is because of their athleticism. And they could run the court and be there when, a fast break, they could finish things. So we think about Maxiell, like some of his dunks or some of his breakaways. That's not happening with the current roster or what we had this year. So I think what's important to me is I will not say anything bad about a coach, as I said. I think we need to reevaluate, though, is it a system issue, a personnel issue, or a staff issue? And I think if we looked at that, it would tend to lean in a certain way. That's me being as political as I can.
Premal translation.
From the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
Get this guy out. I'm kidding.
No, I didn't say it. I can't say it. But, yeah.
He said, that was very, very politically correct. I think we need to look at what's really going on here. 6 players transferred. Not a good look for coach.
Yeah. Especially in that course of time.
2 very different finishes to our team's college basketball seasons, but they both found their way on You Played Yourself. That's the beauty of it.
Love it.
All right, now let's move on to this special format of the episode. I promised you that I would get to the reason for it, but we are actually going to not cover who you got and what you're feeling. Instead, we are going to go right to Too Much Sense and into a conversation, and I'll explain more here. This episode, I wanted to talk about mental health. So, so often we ask our loved ones, how are you, or how you doing? And the answer is somewhat canned and short, or it turns into a rundown of their family, job, house, etc. My advice to you is to dig deeper. Really press the how of how are you. I didn't ask what are you doing, I asked how. I've talked about it before and have emphasized its importance. But those of you who are dealing with it, we just want to emphasize in our discussion about mental health, please seek the help that you need. We're not in any way trying to make it seem like we're any kind of experts, anything like that. Those of you who don't have to, just make sure you're there for those that need it. When they ask, when they do need you, be there for them when they ask. So that is the perfect segue. It's almost like it was planned, Shu. But I want to preempt anything again by saying the two of us are not professionals. So for your mental health well-being, seek out professionals who have devoted their time and their careers to the expertise. But without further ado, Shu, this is your idea to talk about this. You approached this episode as wanting to have this conversation in a comfortable open space and hopefully let it serve as an example for someone else, whether they're dealing with issues themselves or being the person that they trusted to talk about it with. So I want to give you the floor, and I'll serve as a listener and prompt you for questions that I'm curious about or think would be important to discuss. But I promised the number one podcast listeners an explanation. So Shu and I, as I said at the top of the episode, have been friends for 20 plus years, which is crazy. Everything from the good times, in high school or college, music, significant others. We talk sports, all that stuff. We talked about everything. Guy talk. We've been close friends in forever, but we've never had a more meaningful conversation than the one that we had leading up to this episode. And the realization that you and I came to is that so often we have this picture of a stereotypical masculinity in our head that we can't talk about subjects like this, like mental health. Guy talk is talking about sports, not talking about mental health. So we kind of wanted to turn that on its head and show that it can be more. So hence why we talk sports, but a little bit of bait to draw you in for this real important talk, this important guy talk that we're about to have. So now that I've given the number one podcast listeners the explanation, I promise, the dichotomy between the stereotypical guy talk and where we're taking it. Shu, I want the floor to be yours to talk about the importance of mental health and your own personal experience in getting there. So if you wouldn't mind kind of telling us what we're talking about here, what you have been suffering from, like the realizations you came to. Give us a little background of the conversation we're having here.
Yeah, no, hey, Premal, thanks. Like you said, we've always had meaningful conversations. I don't think any more than, what we had leading up to this, though. It was...
Yeah. And that's crazy. In 20 plus years, it's like, it's just not common. We, as kids, you stayed over at each other's houses, played video games. You talk about everything under the moon, but you never really get to talk about this type of stuff with your friends. And I think that part of that is that stereotypical, like, oh, this is what we're talking about. With us, it actually was what we're interested in. Not to say that every guy's interested in sports or video games, but that was our story. But we never had a conversation like this. So.
Yeah, and I think it's important because, it's not that we couldn't have talked to each other about it. It's that I think the conversation is so foreign to young men, and I'm not young anymore. So maybe that's where I'm getting it, but I'm thinking about times where I would have struggled, and it would have been really tough to reach out. So I'm hoping that us talking about this gives somebody out there a little bit of clarity in that you aren't doing this alone. Other people are going through these things. Other people are doing this, and it's so hard to bring something like this up with a friend when you're not 30 years old. When you're 14, 15, 16, you have feelings. Like, that's not what a boy's supposed to do in our society. I watched a video the other day, and that kind of re-sparked my interest about Brandon Marshall saying he has two twins, and one's a boy and one's a girl, and they both go outside and they trip. And they go to the girl and they grab her and scoop her up and say, like, it's okay, like, are you all right? It was just a trip, like, all of this. And he goes to the boy and he says, like, boys don't cry, you know, you're a tough guy, you're getting through it. And it's like, that type of response is what everybody sees. I mean, it's not just at that level, but I think we're going to have a good conversation here to just talk about, you know, let's get the conversation started. Let's stop looking at what a guy should look like emotionally and what a girl should look like emotionally. And I'll be the first to say, a lot of it is because my perception. Like, I didn't want to bring this up because I feel like I shouldn't feel this way. Things like that. So this is not other people pushing this on me. This is just growing up, and this is what we've seen. So, no, I'm excited for this, Perm.
Yeah, man, me too.
And I want to thank you for being open to it and bringing up things that are so important in today's society.
Yeah, I told you when you and I first talked that I thanked you for your trust and trusting me with this, because it's not easy to talk about, like we just outlined. It's nice to be trusted. Like, from my perspective of being the listener and the friend, it's a huge honor for a close friend to trust you with that sort of vulnerable information. So I think that's very big of you to do, and I know it took you a lot to kind of get to this. Let's kick things off. Like, let's start flat out with, what do you suffer from?
Yeah, so I mostly suffer from anxiety. Is one of the biggest things for me. OCD as well, but that one is a little bit unique for me because it's not what you would really think OCD is. But to start out with the anxiety, you know, there were times where I just didn't feel comfortable in certain situations, and I couldn't give it a reason. So I would automatically start worrying about other people, or worrying about, is me being in this situation going to affect anyone else? If I could answer that no, it was pretty easy for me to be like, okay, worst case scenario, I only affect myself. Now, there were situations like having a roommate, one of our good buddies, I'm going to say his name because I think he's been on here, Jeff Robinson.
Yes, he has.
Where, you know, at night, I'd go to bed and I'd be like, man, did I turn the oven off after dinner? And I'd go out and check
you guys at college.
Yeah.
And you would do the same thing. Like, as soon as we left the door, and I didn't know, like, this was a manifestation of that anxiety. I just thought it was like he's just like double checking, you know. But yeah, anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you were there and Jeff was there, I mean, I was checking everything. I was checking light switches to make sure they weren't halfway between, because I thought it might spark something in my head. Checking to make sure I didn't leave the refrigerator open because I didn't want to spoil anyone else's food. Things like that, where it's just like, I have an internal voice that says, like, Andy, you don't want to cause anyone else trouble. And then it causes me more trouble to continue to check. So with anxiety, it's like, that would come up. So that's kind of the OCD point, is like obsessively checking those things. But the anxiety comes when I can't check something. So I can't know for sure that things are going to be okay. And that's really tough because for me, one of my big ones is 2 nephews and a niece right now. And they give me so much joy. But spending time with them, I'm constantly anxious because I'm like, I don't want to do anything that could ever lead them to fall down the stairs or, like... Yeah. And those things are, other individuals have the ability to shut it off and say, hey, I took all the precautions. For me, it just doesn't happen.
And you know logically, like, hey, I'm being careful. Like, I think that's important because this is a new concept to me, like the feelings of anxiety. It's like you were telling me, hey, I know logically, like I'm watching them. Mm-hmm. I'm watching my niece and my 2 nephews, and I know, like, hey, my eyes on them. Like, there's a baby gate over here, but the anxiety doesn't allow you. It like supersedes that logic.
Yep, that's exactly right. So I'll be like, okay, hey, I know I locked the door, but my anxiety is like, well, what if? And then it's like, oh man, I better just go check it. And then it's also like with anxiety, another big one for me is things that are unknown in the future. I worry about them even though there's no way I could solve them. Right. So it's like, well, what if my boss had a bad day and just woke up and said they wanted to just fire Andy? And then it's like, you shouldn't be sitting there feeling that way. That's right. Not a good way to live. And I did it for so long that I didn't even know that no one else had those worries. And so that's when I had to start. Right. Once I realized that so many people around me were able to kind of brush things off or say it will work out, that's where I decided, like, this is enough. Like, I have anxiety.
Right, there's like no off switch for the worry, essentially.
Yes.
Whereas we, people without it might have that regulator.
Yeah, so like, I talk to people and everybody wants to say, like, reassure me. Like, oh, nothing bad's gonna happen. But for me, it's just not that doesn't work in my head. And so I've noticed that now, and I've started to do, like, I work with a professional and started to do, like, cognitive behavioral things.
Okay.
So just trying to, in my head, say, okay, is this realistic? And then I even grab a piece of paper and I write down my worry like 5 times. And it's like, oh, that looks silly on paper. Like, oh wow, yeah, but
that makes sense.
It's something that's like, when it's in my head it seems fine, but when it's on paper or when I'm forced to justify my worry, it kind of shows me like a little bit of relief.
I like that. So I know you kind of got at a little bit of like some examples about anxiety, but what does anxiety look like for you? Like what happens to you? I hesitate to say like symptomatically, but how do you know like you're having these feelings?
Yeah, so for me, and this I know is not everyone, but for me, it hits me a bit more physically than other people.
Okay.
So I have maybe a racing heart or a bouncing leg or cold sweats, things like that. Like, I know when I have, anxiety. Right. But for me, I don't know when it hits until it's to that point. And that's what I'm trying to figure out now.
Like, recognize the early signs, you mean?
Yes. And say,
Okay.
hey, this is starting. How can I capture this before I get to those physical feelings?
Right.
I know it looks different to everyone, though. I mean, I've talked to other individuals that have anxiety, and they can't eat, or they eat too much when they're anxious, or they,
Right.
Do all of those things. For me, I really I shut down a bit, and in my current job, I can't just shut down. So then I fight through, and then it's like, oh, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted from keeping this in the back of my head all day.
Right.
So all I want to do is lay down and go to sleep. And when I lay down, though, I find out that my mind's still thinking, and so I can't fall asleep.
Because you're never able to, like, deal with it, essentially.
Yes.
Got it. So I know you mentioned that you're utilizing some new tools from a professional, like the cognitive behavioral exercises. What other things help you personally, like when you're dealing with anxiety? For example, me as a friend and new to this subject, my feeling, like you mentioned earlier, people, their instinct is to say, like, how can I help? Or, oh, let's talk about this. Or, what feelings are you feeling? Let me help you. What works for you? And obviously we know that this is just your case and it might be different for others, but what do you do to deal with it besides that new tool that you just are utilizing now?
So my biggest thing is, like, working with my hands, but having a finish line. So some people will say, like, oh, I want to just go and work with my hands and start to renovate something or something like that. But for me, I need to have the finish line. So
Sure.
it sounds funny, but, like, Rubik's cubes are really good for me because I'm working with my hands and there's a finish goal. Cooking is really good for me because, once again, working with my hands, but ultimately there's an end goal.
Right, like the dish is complete and you're eating. Yeah.
And then I mean, the woodworking stuff that I do that's one that pushes me a little more, because there are nights where I have to go to sleep and something's not done. But that doesn't keep me up. It's just, if I knew there wasn't a finish, then it'd be tough for me. Like, a lot of people like to do coloring or painting and things like that.
Right.
That I've talked to about anxiety. And for me, if I was really tired and couldn't finish something, I'd be anxious about not finishing it. So it's like, I mean, I need a quicker finish line, but I'm pushing myself with, like, woodworking, and not woodworking, but more like building furniture, things like that, because it's kind of pushing me out of my comfort zone.
So prior to you, like, and we're going to get to kind of like what led to this realization, but how were you previously dealing with your anxiety? Or, I mean, I'm using dealing loosely because you might not have been, it sounds like you weren't dealing with it in the way you are now. So how are you dealing with it before you came to your realization?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing that's really tough. Premal, we hang out and we go out with the same group of friends and things, but there were times where if I was feeling bad, I would want to like drink more. Or if I was feeling anxious, I would want to drink more. And since talking to a professional and everything, it really isn't a drinking problem, it's an anxiety problem. And I think that is something important for people to hear, because it's not like I ever felt like I had to have a drink. But there were times where I knew I was upset and I was drinking because I wanted to be less upset. Now, I always did it like with our group of friends and stuff, but that doesn't make it right. Like, you can be utilizing the wrong means at the wrong times. So for me, it was finding out that really, if I'm feeling anxious, I need time to step back and focus on me and explore what made me feel that way. So instead of, like, there are times, I know you and I talked about it, times where I came off as like flaky. And not that you called me that, but I'm saying that there are times where I know me canceling last minute came off as flaky.
Sure.
And I don't like flaky.
Right.
But those were times where I was like, hey, if I go and do this, I take a step back on understanding why I'm actually anxious or upset or feeling compulsive. And that's a really tough conversation as well with friends. I mean, you know, I trust you and I trust all of my close friends. It's just the way you phrase it has to be careful, because, or you feel like it has to be careful, I would say. Like, I know if I just came out and said, hey, Premal, I'm having a terrible day and I can't go out tonight, or I can't come over and watch that game tonight, or I can't do this tonight, you would understand. But when you're feeling anxious, it's tough to realize that your real friends are your real friends and they're going to understand. Because I don't even want to admit to myself that it's mental health. So it's tough to say.
And so that was kind of manifesting in, like, essentially you were waiting till the last minute and then, like, providing a made-up reason why you couldn't make it.
Yeah. And I hate that, because I've, like, tried so hard to be more honest this year. But when it's something this serious, that's tough.
Well, it's hard to talk about. You can't just, like, say it out of the blue. Hey, by the way, I'm having feelings of anxiety, and they haven't heard it before. So
yeah.
I mean, I get why that happened. You know, logically, like, you told me this before, so I don't mean to, like, lead you with this, but you were essentially saying you knew when you woke up that day this wasn't a day where I was gonna make it, but in your head the anxiety prevented you, or maybe like you were pushing it away or didn't know how to deal with it at the time, so it was manifesting in a way that was, hey, I'm gonna have to bail on him last minute.
Yeah, it was almost like there were times where I'd wake up and I'd be like, I can't do anything today, but I'm not that guy. So I'm going to try to push it off. And then last minute, I didn't get where I needed to be to come out.
Right.
But I couldn't say that. So.
Right. And you're so many things for so many people, and you want to be, like, it's in your nature. For you number one podcast listeners that may not know Shu as well as as I do, but it's in your nature to be like there for other people and family, friends, all that stuff. So it's in your nature to be like, oh, let me make it for this person. Let me make it to see this person. This person needs me. So in your head, despite you feeling feelings of anxiety, you were, hey, I gotta be this. I gotta do this for other people.
Yeah, and thanks for saying that, Prem. I appreciate it. But yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, I want to be all of these places. I want to do all of this. But I don't want to bring what I'm feeling to that place. And that's when it's tough because, I'd love more than anything to, even if I'm anxious, go see everybody. But I know I'm different when I'm anxious. I am. I'm working through how I change that, but I'm not the same happy-go-lucky, like, up for anything, those things.
Right.
Those just aren't the same when I'm anxious. And that's not who I want to be identified as either. So it's tough. I mean, it's tough. I have been lucky enough to have the greatest support system in the world, my family, and also with all my friends. I'm really fortunate, but I want this to serve as, if individuals are feeling this way, it's okay to have the conversation.
Yeah.
It's okay to step up and say, I'm not okay at the moment. And even in hard times, if you told somebody you were going to be there at 3 p.m. and 2:45 rolls around and you're like, I should have left an hour ago, but I've been laying here feeling anxious.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation up front needs to happen. And even if it gets to that 2:45, you just tell that person with truth why and what you were feeling. Because I guarantee that if somebody doesn't understand that, doesn't understand mental health, then they probably aren't a great person to be in your life.
Yeah.
100%. Like, it's crazy, but it's like, if you think I'm just pulling something, then we aren't probably real friends, or I think I can probably find different support.
Absolutely. So a few things, you talked about if you forced yourself out, you wouldn't be the version that everybody knows you as. And a lot of times, like previously before you came to your realization, you would force yourself out, and you told me that would basically just postpone the feelings of anxiety. You would force yourself out, we'd be drinking, in the moment you'd have a good time, but it didn't get rid of the anxiety. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Just wanted to kind of reiterate, like, past versus present. And then into the present, you told me, and again, this is your particular scenario, you outlined some of the things that help you with anxiety, and we didn't explicitly say, but when you're feeling feelings of anxiety, I just want to ask you, like, do you prefer when people check on you when you're feeling anxious, or do you prefer to handle it yourself in your particular situation?
So I am very much a people person, even though all of this. I love getting like a text or a call or,
Sure.
just checking up. But I don't want somebody who's like, I'm not looking for, hey, where are you? Get out here right now. Like, we're having fun.
Right.
That stuff. But,
Sure.
just somebody shooting text just saying like we started out this podcast, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Not what are you doing? Not how's mom and them? But, just how are you doing? Please give me as much information as you're ready to provide.
And then when you're actually dealing with your anxiety, though, you prefer to deal with it in your own way and by yourself. Am I correct? And I'm not trying to suggest you don't appreciate people checking on you, because knowing you do, and you do show appreciation, show love, and you do the same for other people. I just mean, hey, I'm Shu. Right now, I'm having these intense feelings of anxiety. I'm working on the exercise I was taught, or I'm working with my hands. Do I just prefer to be by myself right now?
Yeah, so I think that's something interesting, because I don't love being alone, but when I want to be alone, I want to be alone. So it's tough, because what I would say is, when I'm dealing with this specific anxiety, yeah, I want to be completely alone. But when I'm feeling anxious and it's not like the peak, it's nice to have someone there.
Got it.
But I mean, it's a hard question, just because sometimes I can change on the day.
Right.
Probably why they call me Mark Wahlberg of Dublin, because I have so many different characters.
Do they call you that? Do they call you that?
I think somebody did.
I've known you for 20 years. Yeah, someone did once. Got it.
He's a 185 5'8" powerhouse, so I mean, I guess.
Yeah. If you insist on calling me that.
No, but honestly, honestly, like, that's the big thing. Like, it's so hard to explain to somebody, hey, I want to be away from you, but I love your love.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's a perfect way to explain it, though. I think that's perfect.
It's like, I love your love, but I gotta be away from you.
Yes, yeah. No, I think that's a perfect way to explain it. It looks different for everyone. We've been establishing that, and some people might, need you to be there. Other people with anxiety. The main thing I'm finding out, like, through asking questions and listening, is anxiety has no rhyme or reason. It has no logic whatsoever. It's like you just said, it could change day to day. In my recent understanding of this, that doesn't surprise me, because it sure feels like anything could cause it. Anything by next day it could be gone. It could last a long time. Like, it's so random and so much not patterned to it.
That's what really stinks, because when people feel anxious, like, everybody feels anxious. If throughout their life, if you're up for a new promotion, or you're worried that maybe you didn't give your all on something, you feel anxious.
Yeah, of course.
The anxiety as a diagnosis is, I don't know what weight is on my shoulder, but there's a weight.
Got it.
If I could narrow it down to just one thing, I'd be able to fix it. Like, if I said, oh, I'm anxious because I don't like my job. Okay, I'd go out and get a new job. But if you say, I'm anxious, and you can't say why, that is anxiety. And that is, like, the anxiety diagnosis. Those are kind of
It's a good designation.
Those are the things, like, yeah, everybody's going to have anxiety. That's human nature. It's fight or flight. That's what we were built to do. Is in that moment, what do? Do we fight for it, or do we run from it? And you have an issue in front of you. Now, when you're waking up wondering which one to do and there's no issue in front of you, that is anxiety.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been kind of hinting at it. We already established, thank you for being willing to share this, and I know your interest is in to help people, because, like, for all intents and purposes, Shu, you have you already said you have a great support system. You're a great friend. You have great friends, great family, 2 beautiful nephews, a beautiful niece, all the whole 9 yards. Yet here you are, you have anxiety. It can happen to literally anyone. It does not matter what background you come from, who you have around you. It can happen to anyone. I want to get the little history on what event kind of sparked all this event that kind of sparked yours and mine's conversation that I'm very thankful we're having on here also for the #1 podcast listeners. But what happened in your life that kind of led you to this realization of, hey, I have anxiety and I need to start tackling how to deal with it?
For me, it was just not being present in a lot of ways.
Okay.
So it was wanting to, be by myself instead of go to a family gathering, or wanting to be by myself instead of going to a place where all of my friends were, and wanting to be by myself instead of, even just going to work. Like, I would take off days at a time because I was anxious. And the biggest thing about this is it's not like a sickness or a cold.
Mm-hmm.
There's no thermometer for anxiety.
Yeah.
You have to look inside and figure out that you have anxiety. And until you disappoint people in your life, you're lucky if you catch it before you disappoint people in your life. I know that my anxiety has probably ruined the best relationship of my life, and it wasn't me being ignorant to the fact, it was me trying to hold things together without being completely honest with that person.
This was a previous significant other of yours, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think that's when it hit me, was why am I not just being completely honest about how I'm feeling? I would rather say, like, oh, honestly, there were times where I said, like, oh yeah, I forgot to do that. Even though I remembered I was just so anxious that I couldn't get up to do it. And in those moments, that starts to wear on a significant other, or a good friend, or a mom, or a dad, or sister, brother, any of those important relationships. So I know I did it. Glad I recognized it, but didn't in time catch it. And I think it's important for everyone to just catch it when you can. Like, if you aren't doing something,
right, and it is okay if it's too late. Like,
yeah,
there's no too late. Basically, there is no too late. I should say it's important that you catch it.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you wake up tomorrow and you feel like, I can't get out of bed because I am so upset or so torn down, that's okay if you communicate.
Sure.
But if it's waking up and just feeling like I'm not quite ready to take on the day and you can't say why, that's anxiety.
And so with and not just your significant other, we're not harping on, like, this isn't a therapy of previous relationships, but it kind of also highlights, connecting that point where you felt like you had to be this version of Shu, this role, this good friend, this good, significant other, this good son, this good uncle, all this stuff. You felt that external pressure, but the anxiety wouldn't was keeping you from it. And am I correct in saying like this realization was like, hey, you needed to work on you before you could ever be that role for anyone else?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, Premal. It's
got it.
I had to figure this out before I could be a great son, a great brother, significant other, uncle, all of that. And I'm lucky enough that people stuck with me through it all, even when there were times where I wasn't communicating that it was because of mental health, because I was hiding that. And they just were looking at it as like, oh, well, Andy's not going to show up again, or, Andy's not going to do this. Or I'm lucky enough to have such a great support, and I've had great, people come in and out of my life, all my life. I just want to make sure that anyone who's listening knows if you haven't had the same experience, that's okay. But if you need anything, we're open. I know I'm open to anybody who's listening to say, hey, if you just want to rap for 20 minutes, and by rap I don't mean R-A-P.
Not freestyle, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not throwing up. You got to pay for those bars. But
Marky Mark don't work for free.
But no, if somebody needs someone to talk to, I'm always here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that we were able to have this conversation because, we talked about not everyone's situation is the same. Not everyone might not have anxiety. They might be suffering from something else. But the whole purpose was to have an open dialogue. And, it was a big moment for us. Like we said, we've been friends for 20 years, but that conversation was a big moment for, your and I's relationship. And that could be, that right there is a positive in itself. That's a small victory. Like you are trusting someone with this vulnerable information and you bond over someone being understanding of it and hearing you out. So I think it's, hopefully this serves as, even if it doesn't fit this recipe, not everybody's anxiety looks the same as yours, Shu. Hopefully this conversation fits that mold. Like, hey, we're talking about it and it's great to talk about it. You should talk about it. When you're ready, of course, but just know that you have people to go to and you have professionals that you can turn to for the actual substance of it. But talking about it is important. It is part of, I would say, I feel like it's part of the therapy for us as friends, but I'm sure you feel like it is, cathartic for your journey and how you're dealing with anxiety now.
Oh, absolutely. Being able to talk about it is the hardest thing to start. But that is really the first step. And I know that may sound like cliche, but honestly, until you say it out loud to somebody who isn't professional, it's so hard to talk in any other space. So I really appreciate you for the podcast. I appreciate you for bringing me on. I appreciate you for, the topics we've covered, giving me time to talk. I do have one thing for you.
All right.
Before we go, let's say you have a great song and you're looking for somebody to make your hook.
Yeah.
Drake, Bieber, Chris Brown.
Wow. Okay, so let's preempt this because you love playing this game. It's like,
normally it's one gotta go, but I'm making you pick.
But this one's like one's got to be the choice, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna come at you with whatever choice you pick. I'm gonna come at you with other.
This serves as our who you got for the week. That's perfect. Okay, so I got to pick a hook for a hit song, right? Let's say
Khaled. Let's say Khaled put together
another one.
Chance the Rapper, Wayne, and they have verses, but you're looking for a hook.
Yeah. Okay, so that's an important designation because I was leaning towards Drake, but I feel like I'd want him for like the whole song. If we're just talking hook, I think I'm going with Bieber. Because here's my thinking. You go Bieber because he gets that wide range of audience.
I like that.
Everyone from your kid's sister to grown adults are Bieber believers, right? And then he's got the R&B.
He's the truth.
Yeah, everybody should be. Yeah. So then he's perfect for a hook because he's gonna make it catchy, and then you got the wide range of audience. Not that Drake doesn't also, but I'd rather have him for a verse, I think. And Chris Brown's probably third on the list for me personally. I know that's blasphemous for other people, but I think I'm going Bieber with this.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that Wayne did say we gonna be alright if we put Drake on every hook.
And we gonna be alright if we put Drake on every
True. It's a tough one, but I think it's just like just the hook part is like I need him for more.
But for me, so Bieber just put out an album. It's called Justice. The man is a lyrical genius.
Good man. He knows how to sell records too.
Prem, he's a lyrical genius.
Now, all of his songs seem to be love songs lately since he got married. That's a tough one. I haven't thought about lyrics like in anything but hip hop personally. I'm sure there's someone like I don't even know about because I'm purely like I'm pop music and hip hop, a little bit of R&B, but there's got to be some old school R&B like your boy Usher had some R&B bars.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I don't think he put meaning in his lyrics.
All right, hey, it's a hot take, and this is a safe place for a hot take. I can tell you that.
I was just trying to see what your first pick was, because I really don't know.
Yeah, I like that one. Who do you got for that one? You going Drake?
Yeah, I'm going Drake, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm only going Drake because
he literally can't miss. I have this theory like Drake could literally just fart into a microphone and people would buy his records. Like they'd go platinum.
Yeah, I mean,
they say like Drake fans are literally that loyal. He could do no wrong. He's definitely in do no wrong territory. Fanatics.
Yeah. I just think he is
not that he does much wrong, clearly.
Yeah. I just think
it can become an immediate hit with just his name on it. Mm-hmm. And a vibe can change. All right, you number one podcast listeners, with that is going to wrap up this very special edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Creme Brulee. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I know I have. It's a great honor to be able to be here to listen and prompt you, Shu. And thank you for trusting me with this again and being willing to share something that's so personal. And I can't tell you how proud I am as a friend that you're tackling this head on and dealing with it in the way that works best for you and being open about it. I know that it's a culmination of about 10 years of anxiety for you to get to this point. So it's a huge accomplishment for you to be at this point and be working on yourself. So I just want to say I'm proud of you and thank you for trusting me with this conversation and this topic that I think can be helpful for so many.
Prem, this has been an honor for me. You're doing huge things here. You're bringing up social aspects as well as sports and blending them, and I think that's a huge thing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, quickly I would like to say to my mother, I don't think I cussed, Barb.
I don't think you did.
Okay, but if I did,
I don't remember.
If I did, Premal will edit that. But
yeah, I got you.
I love you, love Dad. Thanks for raising me the way you did, and also big shout out to everybody who's listening. And
yeah, definitely appreciate the well wishes and the appreciation for this. I'm very proud of this conversation we had and thankful for it, thankful for you. And again, my sincerest apologies to Mrs. Shoemaker for my foul language. I can't promise it won't happen again, but I think I held firm on not, as soon as we did the initial apology, I don't think I cursed after that. So I did hold my end of that.
Yes, you did. And she said it will not deter her from, stocking the fridge if you're ever over.
Yeah, there we go.
We get those.
Oh, is that the best snacks?
Candy.
At the Shoemakers.
Ah.
Yes.
The Shoemaker
those
snacks.
Those are good times. Yes. Fridge and freezer always stocked, too.
Oh, those pretzels.
Those are the days. Yes.
Oh, man.
Those are good times. My dude, Shoe, I'm happy to have had you on here. Very proud of you. Very proud to be friends with you, and thankful that you're at this place, this healthy place, and only getting healthier by the day. So I'm glad you're focusing on you before you, since you are so many things to other people. I'm glad you're working on you. You deserve that because you spent most of your life doing that. Appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, man. Hey, feel the same for you. You have a platform, and I'm just diving off it.
There we go.
Love it.
I love it.
Love you, man.
Love you, man. Love you. All right, you number one podcast listeners, you know the drill. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend, tell a family member, tell whoever, and we will talk to you on the next edition.